although he never actually told me, he was really silent on some things. I think, in fact I know, that he learned a lot about life as he saw that very thing slip away from him. His last lesson to me, he goes with all of us simply, no matter how cliche it sounds, to live every day like it's your last, because one of these days it will be. You won't be prepared, and you won't deserve it, but you'll end up in the hospital's same as the rest of us.
I remember one time Matt, Christine, and myself were sitting in the dark in his basement, just holding hands with each other and talking. Just about life in general, nothing too special. I don't really remember the details of the conversation, but I just remember so much laughter and fun and love. And there were so many conversations like this over the year. And I know for sure that in any of them we never talked about his illness. And there were so many things I wanted to ask him. I wasn't scared, it hurt, but he never brought it up, so I never got around to it either. In all of our many conversations over the year, I never talked deeply with Max about cancer. He was so courageous about it, and being a man of a few words, he probably didn't need to talk about it. So I guess his way of showing us how he felt was just making our lives that much more fun and special. It was wonderful, Max feel away.
Never let, alright, we'll just leave that one out. He had this way, he would always tell me, and not just me, tell anybody, that what the great thing about cancer was. And it was never the same thing, but it was always something that was great about cancer. The great thing about cancer is you get the first slice of cake at your sister's birthday. Or you can just leave class and wander the halls and no one asks any questions. Or a box of donuts at lunch and nobody really minds. And all these things were great about cancer for. The bummer was death. But even that, with a sarcastic remark and some chillness. When he went to med the last time, he went there to get comfy because it wasn't happening at home. The last time he had been there, it looked like something out of a zombie movie. Green on his bald spot and 60 staples in his head. But he had this little grin that told you he was alright and glad to see you.
I'm so glad that Max was and is my friend. And although he's no longer with us, he will never really be gone. There will always be bits and pieces of him in the pictures, the songs, and especially in the memories of this wonderful, incredible, unbelievable year. Thank you, Maxie.
He lived a lot, and he lived a lot simpler. Right up until he came back to the main business, where he lay and grinned at us, thumb wrestled with us with his good hand. He sat there and listened to the Beatles until he just pieced out of this world. He was kind, even occasionally to me, and happy every day, right up until the last one he had. I think he was telling us all the whole time, this is what I've got, and I'm still having fun. People should be ashamed of yourselves. Of these little things you fight over and complain about. You could have brain cancer, moron. All we're here for is a good time. And I really think he figured that out. And since he can't act on it now, we all should. Yeah, thank you.
Max was always a great kid. Anyone who knew him for 10 minutes knew that. His kind, nonchalant attitude made him easy to be around and to talk to ask for help. He befriended all of us. And he was faithful and loyal. He was always faithful and loyal, and we returned the favor until the end. He someone I'm never going to forget. I remember one summer when we were out on Boston just talking and relaxing. We got onto the topic of the last school year. We complained about school and grades in the system and teachers. And Max just leaned back and said, man, life can really be a witch sometimes, can't she? We all nodded and agreed. We continued. It happens. Just gotta roll with the punches and move on. We can't worry about losing the memories about Max because that'll never happen. We'll remember him when we're out on buses, when we drive by his house, when we listen to his favorite songs, when we go sailing, when we met him on the photo booth, whenever someone uses his dry, sarcastic humor, whenever we walk by his locker, number 26, whenever we eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch, because we remember that it always tastes better going down than coming up. Whenever we pick up an Xbox controller, and whenever we look over in science or English lab and expect him to be there, we don't have to worry about losing these memories because it'll never happen. We just need to roll with this knockout punch. We have to pick ourselves up and get through this round because it's been the toughest. But that only means it'll get easier. It'll smooth out. If we can get through this, we can get through anything. Thanks.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm Ben Carr. My wife and I live down in Hancock, and we're also long-term Boston Islanders. I'm a retired Presbyterian minister, and for 21 years I was a high school principal. Survived. This afternoon, most of our talk has been about a blonde, household-haired mouse, about somebody who is part of each of our lives, whose memory will be with us for as long as we take breath. I'd like to change the focus a little bit and talk about you. You who have been part of this for this long last year. And about these matters, I'd like to say 3 things, as briefly as a preacher can. The first is, even though we don't always put it into words, we are our stories. We are the sometimes cranky and contradictory, sometimes frightened and insecure, sometimes angry and antagonistic, occasionally wise, sensitive, and caring results of all that has happened to us from the moment of our conception, when our genetic makeup was determined, onward through all of the days of life that have followed. From time to time, we're caught up in an event that we only gradually come to understand. We join with others, we learn a new way of understanding ourselves as we work and share together. In good causes, we get a taste of what it really means to be a human being and live to our maximum, to the max. Of course, as you've already jumped ahead of me to conclude, this is exactly what happened for each of you in the course of this past year. Consider Brando and Jay and Mia, for instance, who, ever hopeful and ever ready to give and receive hugs, grew to model the love and courage, the passion and compassion that have set the tone for all of the rest of us amidst emotional highs and lows that change by the hour. Consider events in your lives as beginning, as we've heard, first in a core group of Max's close friends, and then spreading through a whole student body, rising to love for a friend, a fellow student. Consider faculty members, many not a little set in their ways, if I know faculties, who have been moved and inspired to join with you, the students, in tailoring programs that worked, and events that bolstered Max and Freeport High School as he coped day by day with sickness and all of the limitations that implied. Consider townspeople, health professionals, others who hardly knew Max, but who became part of the outpouring of concern, touching one another perhaps through the Caring Bridge website or in other ways. All those who were drawn into the life-giving and life-receiving activities that have swept through this community over the course of the past year. So many hearts have been touched at the very core. So many have worked tirelessly for something that meant more than most could grasp or express. None of you will ever again find it quite so difficult to show your feelings, to take the risk of commitment to something that you believe in. Nor will any of your stories ever be just the same. They will always be intertwined with, bound to, the stories of your shared love, the ways you reach out to Max. Make no mistake, and this is my second point, at the heart of our stories is love. And love, let's leave out self-love, doesn't exist without an object. It is in a loving relationship that we learn what it is to be human. Better together, as the song puts it on the back of our programs for this afternoon. You've learned much about this in the past year shared with Max. This love has been the plumb line against which over the months you have tested your feelings and your actions. Outgiving love has become part of your story as individuals, as a group, as a community. Planned events, baked cookies, dreamed about skiing and snowboarding, played music, shared videos, listened to one-liners, doled out starbursts, spoken the words of love in the way that you use for kidding and jokes, in your music, letting him beat you like not at cribbage. Some of you relayed for life, shaved your heads, visited often, and baked still more cookies. Just a few short weeks ago, you filled the Thomas House on Byram Avenue with vibrant yellow spring daffodils. You breathed love in, you soaked love up, you radiated love. Love was your plumb line. All that has happened is now part of your stories. You and your friends are not the persons you were a year ago. Just listen to the testimonies you've heard. In the days ahead, lots of other interests and values will try to encroach. We'll try to get a piece of you. We'll try to take over and put this into the back seat. But hold high to this ground that you found. Hold this Max love to all that love lies ahead. Not only hold it, put it to work. If love is your plumb line, you can hug your parents, maybe even in public on special occasions without rolling your eyes.
Sit still.
At school, you can take under your wing a younger brother or sister, even if you feel a little bit uncool doing so. You can welcome and find space at a lunch table with someone who marches to a slightly different drumming. You can continue with relays for life and with other ways of supporting worthy causes. You can put yourself in the shoes of a beginning teacher, recognizing that he or she is joined at the hip to stress and insecurity. And you can contribute to that new teacher's growing confidence and success. Love does not build fences. Love does not demean. Love does not ridicule. Love does not marginalize. finally, in all of this, where does God fail? Tragedy and healing, loss and life, a death, and our gathering here this afternoon to celebrate life. All are amongst the landmarks that we meet at one time or another along the journey we share as fellow travelers on the pathway of life. Where these opposites meet, good things can happen. Perhaps at their juncture, the God who has seemed so absent many days, the God who failed to answer our most fervent prayers and pleas for a particular miracle, may yet be present. Perhaps miracles other than the one we sought most occur at the hands of a God who may not protect us, but who speaks to us amidst all the events that are our common lot. Events as painful and shattering as losing Max, or as boringly ho-hum and repetitive as negotiating for a later curfew, climbing onto that yellow golden chariot in the morning, letting the dog out the back door at daybreak. God speaks to us not so much in words on a page or in the loud, God-like voice we might imagine, but through the people and the events of our day-by-day living, the familiars of our lives, the places where we live and where miracles can occur. Today, here, as we celebrate Max, we realize that through the people and events of the past year, we have grown and deepened, that we have gained something we may never have known we lacked, the ability to reach out and love. 525,600 minutes, how do you measure that love? Is all that has happened just chance, just the way the cookie crumbles? Or are these events in which we can discern, never as clearly as we might want, the supporting presence of God? Have our prayers for a miracle been words spoken into the void, or have miracles occurred? The answer, of course, is both. Things happen. Think of the bumper sticker, using slightly different words to say this. And in these events, God speaks to us, should we have eyes to see and ears to hear. Review the situation one more time. We have seen parents and a sister turned into beacons of hope as they modeled for us the way to face an unimaginably life-wrenching situation. We've seen a small group of typical young people stretched in mind and heart, with their number growing like mushrooms until a whole school, students and faculty and staff, are energized and focused on sharing hope, grief, and love in all the best ways. We've seen a community take a young man and his family to its heart and reach out to them in word and deed. Through them all, God speaks an incarnate word to each of us. Miracles happen in free will. So here we are. Our stories have become overlapping and intertwining, and post-Max will never again be the same. We have discovered that if we make love our plumb line, it is not opposed to our accustomed daily pleasures, but rather can light them up with new meaning. We have seen that perhaps God acts in our lives if we choose to see that activity, and that miracles do happen. And so we draw closer to an end with thanksgiving, but perhaps also with high resolve. To leave this service as more sensitive human beings, valuing each day, seeing each moment and each relationship as key. Leave this service as more fully alive human beings, determined to live our ordinary lives extraordinarily well. Lives lived to the max. Some of us share the life of faith, Christian or otherwise. Some of us don't. Max and his family weren't aren't particularly religious, at least not in the traditional sense. So they were surprised not so very long ago to discover that Max knew the Lord's Prayer. Where did you learn that? Oh, not much was the answer. Grandma, Sonia Thomas, took me upstairs in the cottage one afternoon and taught. Both in our times of doubt or despair, as well as in times of celebration, it's good for us to think of the words Jesus taught his disciples, words that speak of peace and love, of forgiveness and trust and joy. Let those of you who will join me in saying that prayer that Max learned, and that many, over the centuries, in good times and bad, have recited together, and let us be trespassers. Let us pray. Our
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread,
and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Was that the last thing?
I don't know, but nope.